Just to say one little detail of that story that I just want to highlight is the fact that Pixie and I first started interacting on account of the fact that she was trying to prove that I was a fraud. My first really big, like, what the heck moment was coming across a collection of pictures of people who were cosplaying as my teenage son. I logged out as me and I logged back in as him, and I posted a reply to my message. I said, "Nerd."
TommyInnit's mom is on my hit list a little bit. I won't lie. She ruined Baldur's Gate for me. Yeah, so there's like maybe 12 Technoblade cosplayers wandering around the greater Boise area who have a weird story.
Is there a possibility that we'll be having the Festival Voices on Technoblade's 25th birthday?
I can pull an ad read out of my butt.
Subscribe to Technoblade.
Alright lads, welcome back to Midweek MC. The podcast writes it down with the very amazing co-host, Captain AJX. How are you today?
Hello, I'm okay, yes, I'm very excited. Very, very excited indeed.
For the first time ever, I don't want to make the intro too long here. For the first time ever, AJX, we have 2 guests on the podcast. I've had 2 guests on InsideMC, but this is the first time we're going to have 4 people on a singular podcast, which is kind of crazy.
It's going to be chaotic for sure.
Do you want to introduce our guest today, or should I do it?
Oh, it's your podcast. You should take it away, sir.
Okay. We are joined with the amazing Technodad and ProtonPixie.
Hi!
Yay!
We're here.
Welcome, both of you. I just want to be the first to say it's truly an honor to have you both here today.
Oh.
Yes.
I was quite shocked.
Very happy to be here.
I was quite shocked when you guys reached out about coming on. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. I didn't think it ever happened. So I think you shared the same reaction, AJX. So.
Oh, beyond shocked, yes.
Blame Debbie entirely. It's all Debbie's fault.
Oh, thank you, right?
In fact, I think we can use that more generally. I think she may also be responsible for global warming or anything else that
This is true.
we find inconvenient.
Put the blame on her for everything. There we go.
Oh,
I can't believe Debbie's responsible for inflation.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah.
This is not the type of person I should be dating.
That makes it even more awkward, doesn't it? There's AJX's partner. Anyways, enough about Debbie. There you go, Debbie. You got your little thank you at the start of the podcast here.
It wasn't a very good thank you. Thanks for the
It's still a thank you
You're amazing,
nonetheless.
It's the best thank you we know how to give.
Exactly. In a way of not being too complimentary and giving them an ego, you know. So,
yeah.
Anyways, Technodad, ProtonPixie, welcome in. We always like to give the intro for you guys to kind of tell people who you are. Obviously, most people listening to this podcast will know who you are, but we always like to, give the option in whatever order you guys like. Who are you? Yeah, I get a fun fact if you must. There we go.
I can go. Hi, I'm ProtonPixie. I am Technodad's social media manager and content manager. I also am studying public relations as a communications degree in university, and I do things and stuff. I project manage events. I help run foundations. I fundraise. I help make YouTube content with Technodad, and we like to have fun here. We have a good time.
Hi, I'm Technodad, and I am, I'm in this world by virtue of my son having been big in this world, the amazing Technoblade, who is known for, collecting potatoes and beating people in PvP. And after he passed, there was a lot of people online who were, wrestling with various things, grief in particular. And I ended up connecting with those people, and that sort of grew into I'm a YouTuber now, I guess is the way to say it.
That's it's quite big new thing to go into. Yes,
the
big world of
YouTube. The young people are really into the YouTube.
Yes, yeah.
The use of the tubes.
Yeah, exactly.
They are.
I think another. Yes.
We have some YouTube enjoyers in the replies.
Go on, AJ. You'll get your question eventually.
I was going to ask, how did you two meet?
It's all yours, Pixie. I love this.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay. So I had actually quit the internet entirely when I met Technodad. I was a geochemistry major at the time. I had just come back from like a pilgrimage to the like Idaho Panhandle woods. I was like full Ron Swansoning it for a while, but I had known who Technoblade was, and I had found out that Technoblade had passed over the summer from some of my campers at the summer camp I worked at. And I thought I was like, oh, that's like really that's tragic. That's like that's what a blow to the community. And then it was like, I don't know, it was like the winter. It was freezing cold, and I was waiting for the bus, and I saw on Twitter that someone was reposting a guy's Reddit posts, like a Mister Technodad, and I was outraged. I was like, how dare someone impersonate this man? That's so sick and twisted. And so I made a burner Twitter account. I made a burner Reddit account. ProtonPixie was entirely alliteration based off of a chem textbook I was looking at. And then my Reddit handle, Rock Girl in a Chem Class, was just like something that popped out of my brain. And I was like investigating. I was super sleuthing, and I was like, how dare someone impersonate this man's dad? That's so awful. And then I found out that it was not an impersonator. Oh, no. That it was actually Technodad. So I had ended up joining his Discord, and they like modded me like that day for no reason. And I saw that they were trying to organize a fundraiser, and I have experience with different fundraisers and stuff like that. So I let them know. I was like, hey, I can help with that. Da, 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 da. And then so they sent me, because I was the only adult at the time, they sent me to go ask Technodad if he wanted to participate in the fundraiser. Technodad added me on Discord after that message, called me that day, scared me half to death, and then the next day I had a 4-hour phone call with him and his wife Stacy, who's now the president of the foundation, and they offered me a job.
And what was the job specifically, like the job title was offered?
They brought me on at the time to organize the first Festival of Voices, but that has since then evolved into me doing a number of other things for the family.
I also really liked our initial Reddit conversation, because they got really real really fast, and I thought they were really good too. And there's a Mister Technodad subreddit has a flare now that comes from something that Pixie said that I really liked.
What was that?
It's Only Love Be Still.
Oh.
Because I had spent the summer, like I had campers, because I worked at a summer camp the summer that Alex passed, and I had campers who would come in with like techno merch. I had campers who found out that night when everything was released, and so like I sat with kids when it happened. And so when I started working with Technodad and I became more active in the sub, I spent a lot of time consoling the kids there. Like I consoled the kids in my cabin, and I think that was one of those things that I like. We talk a lot about like grief and loss and stuff like that, especially that first year. So I think that is probably where that came from.
And then part of it, I had been talking about how sometimes we human beings put expectations on ourselves that are unrealistic. Like, I'm going to, stop global warming, or I'm going to, whatever. People put appallingly large expectations on themselves at times. And I was speaking to how, honestly, we're really just little furry animals running around on the forest floor, and meanwhile the Andromeda galaxy is hurtling towards our galaxy, and they're going to collide, and the world is gigantic, the universe is gigantic, and what do we have that is our own? And I said that it is only love. Only love is the antidote. It's something that is human, that operates at our scale, that we can do, we can love. And I think it really reached Pixie, and then she kind of said her version of it, which I thought was lovely, and she ended it by saying, only love, be still.
Which is really sweet. Just kind of going back to something that you said there, which Yeah, I mean, I keep saying the word coincidental, and every single time I say it, my mum is like, "I don't believe in coincidences." So I'm like, okay, which is fair. Like, you know, she's definitely a very, what was I gonna say here? No, she's really cool actually. Well, I don't know why I'm stuttering over my words here.
I love my mom too.
My mum is pretty cool. She's a pretty cool lady.
Me too.
But when you said I don't know, like obviously the entire thing stood out is amazing. But as I was walking to work this morning, I was like looking up at the buildings and stuff because there's a few tall buildings around me, and I was looking. I was like, I was thinking to myself, I'm really small. Like compared to those,
Yes.
like, I'm a 6 foot guy. Like looking at the buildings, I'm like compared to those, I'm really really small. It's like, so when you say about the buildings and the universe and stuff like that, it's just weird that I was thinking that to myself this morning. Now you've come and said it. It's like, it's so true. Like we think ants are small, but then we're tiny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't have much other than that to add. That was just the one thing. So
Yeah, comparatively speaking, you know, the universe, I find learning about the universe actually to be kind of gives me sort of weird existential feelings because we're so small.
100%.
You know, like 99% of the mass in the solar system is the sun. Comparatively speaking, all the planets all put together aren't nothing.
Yes.
And our star is a pretty small star.
A
So,
tiny star in some ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, it just the universe is super colossal in size, beyond anything we can actually, I think, conceive of. We can think about things abstractly, but not concretely. It's beyond us.
I think a lot of people derive a lot of fear from that idea of being so small and so, like, I don't know, cosmically insignificant. But I think that's part of the reason that Technodad and I became such good friends, is because both of us kind of share the opinion that is not a source of fear. It's a source of immense comfort in that you are cosmically insignificant. Like, any sort of hardship that you're facing is a drop in the bucket of the hardship of the world. But because there's that cosmic insignificance, there's no expectation or the burden of like having to do anything beyond what you do, if that makes sense. It's like, it's this idea that, like, yes, it hurts, but also it's so good sometimes too. And the bad things don't cancel out the good things, and the good things don't cancel out the bad things. It all just becomes this big pile, but it's your pile, and it's precious to you because it's yours. And because out of everything in the universe, you get to be here and have your pile of experiences in your life, and your connections and your friendships and your family and your highs and your lows and your triumphs and your losses. And that's so intrinsically yours and so magical that gets to happen in a universe so big.
and that's the podcast for me.
I was going to say this is you guys probably talk about this stuff all the time. This is probably
we do.
Yeah.
very mundane.
I was gonna go back
just
to
to say one little detail of that story that I just want to highlight is the fact that Pixie and I first started interacting on account of the fact that she was trying to prove that I was a fraud.
Yeah. I was trying to catch him.
I mean, mine and AJX's first interaction was so that he could be a co-host on the podcast. You know, everything works out in the end, right? You know.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I was going to go back to Pixie. You said that when you were camp counselor, and obviously that day was very difficult because I had a very similar experience with both my little brothers, who were obviously big fans of Technoblade. Being a big fan, also, it was very difficult to talk to them about such a major thing that you're also not connected to in a way. But has that helped you, sort of, that experience then, has that helped you in your role now a lot more, because you obviously understood what Technoblade meant to so many kids and so many people from the get-go?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say so. I think it's helped me to have a greater sense of empathy and compassion for some of the kiddos that we interact with, because it is not lost on either of us that a lot of our audience is Techno's old audience, and while a lot of them are adults now, there are still a lot of very young folks who engage with us and watch our stuff. So I would say yes, because it helped me in the immediate aftermath to put faces to people who would later be in Discords and on Reddits and in YouTube comments and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely helped foster a greater sense of empathy for the community. Not greater, more nuanced sense, I would say. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience because like they weren't my family. Like they're not my little brother. They're not my kids. They're kids that I care about and I've been charged with taking care of for a week, 2 weeks. But like it's hard to explain to an 8-year-old why, like what that means and like what the ramifications of that are, especially when you're like not their mom. So you got to do it where you're like minding people's beliefs and like minding family systems and like in this like weird interim surrogate caretaker position is deeply strange. But I think it's the same thing that I think this is another reason that Technodad and I got along so well is just that like constant sense of like your feelings are surrounding this, whatever they may be, are valid, and grief looks a lot of different ways, and you don't need to, you can grieve someone you've never met. You can grieve someone who provided you a sense of comfort and security and community without ever having met them, and that's allowed and that's okay. And so just validating that over and over again and reminding them that like you are seen, you are heard, and you are so loved through it. Like you are not experiencing this in a vacuum.
Yeah, that was something I ran into a lot on Reddit that really called to me was there's so many people who were saying I'm having a hard time getting on with my life since Technoblade died, or I'm having these challenges, or I'm still grieving, and I don't feel like I deserve to because I didn't know him personally. I feel like there's something wrong with me for having this much grief over someone who was just a guy I saw on the internet, and I couldn't disagree with that more, right? Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing, that's something that is happening to you, something that's coming up from inside of you. And there's no like, oh, okay, well you had to have been this close of a relative in order to experience grief. Oh, not at all. We are all connected. We are all connected. We're all a family. And it's like the what was that John Donne poem? No man is an island. We're all there's no wrong grief. You don't deserve to feel this. You do.
I at time was a Bedrock Edition content creator. I'm now Java Edition, and a lot of my I knew about this community. I knew about Techno, and I knew about Dream SMP, and etc. etc. I wasn't as into it. I didn't know as many people as I do now. But like a lot of the people at the time, like online friends and stuff, they turn on and be like, I'm really sad, but it feels really parasocial. And I'm like, but why? And like, oh, because like I didn't know them. They were just a content creator. It was really parasocial to be sad. Like, but you can be sad about it. You're allowed to be sad about it. I mean, they changed our lives. It's even little things. You could talk to someone, and you could talk to them a very little amount, but they could still mean a lot to you when you talk to them. And if something ever happened, you're allowed to be sad about that. Yeah, you may have never met them in real life. Yeah, maybe they just thanked you for a gifted sub. But if they mean something to you and they genuinely make you happy and they change your life, I mean, a lot of people bought Techno merch. My partner, she has a Technoblade jumper because he affected people, and it's like affected people in a good way. Sorry, just to be clear here. But like, you can grieve someone you've never ever met without it being parasocial, and a lot of people, I think it took a lot of people a lot of time to understand that. And now I think a lot more people are open to it now in any scenario, in a sense of if you love someone's content and something happens, you're allowed to be sad about it, because it's now like that changes your life. If you wake up every morning and you're watching someone's stream as soon as you wake up, it alters your daily routine. Your daily routine has stopped now, and so it's fine to be sad about that.
Yeah, that word parasocial has come to really bother me, because it seems to me like, how like words have their strict notation, but then they also have
loose ones,
like how they're used typically. And the word parasocial, the way I see it used typically, the way it's typically used is to say you're not allowed to feel something. Any thoughts or feelings you have towards someone who you haven't met, are those feelings don't count. It's a way to dismiss other people and their experiences, and I'm obviously not okay with that.
And that's why sorry, hang on.
I was gonna say I sort of go in the other direction. I say, sure, parasocial, so what? That's just like a description of the structure of the relationship you had. Also, I think there's kind of a difference between, like if you were watching TV in the 60s or something, you had parasocial feelings about, I don't know, Dick Van Dyke or something, and he's a guy who's 1,000 miles away, and he just goes to a studio every day and gets recorded. Versus these days, we have streaming, we have chat, and creators are interacting with people through chat streams and maybe also on Reddit and so forth and so on.
Exactly. So it's just so different.
I had a very parasocial relationship with Dick Van Dyke. I do want to say that, though.
But I mean, are you sure? Because that could just be the wording of it. Could have just been a big fan.
No, we watched Dick Van Dyke in my homeroom when I was in high school. My professor used to put it on, and I love that man. I loved the sitcom we watched.
Yeah,
that's not parasocial. You just like the sitcom.
Parasocial still has the word social in. I think that's always a good.
That's a good way to put
thing to take note of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of tracking back. Yeah, I know we keep tracking back to like things that we mentioned throughout the conversation, but this is nice. This is just a nice little talk. With the whole Reddit thing, obviously, you both met through mainly Reddit, with Pixie trying to hunt you down in a negative term. But
that makes me sound insane.
But like, how comes? What was it specifically that made you turn to Reddit in the first place? Like, you went there. I remember you posted. I remember finding that you'd posted an image of an anime. You put it in the like you'd sent it to Techno private or something along those lines, saying, "I'm really glad I met you." But you went and posted it on Reddit, I believe, and you posted a bunch of other stuff. So what exactly made you go there? Was it a way of interacting with people? Was it a way of like helping you deal with it?
So despite my crazy age, I am someone who has been online since not just before there was a web, but before the internet existed even.
Yeah.
I was online back when there were just random collections of computers that could talk to each other in a vague way. I was already online. So I've been online my whole life, unlike a lot of people my age. And one thing about Reddit is that it is very old school internet in terms of how it feels. Reddit is basically an old style Usenet, only in a web app, a centralized web app. Anyone can create new groups and people talk, and it's got a hierarchical conversation structure. So it's for me, it's very comforting and easy to think about and easy to work with. So I've been on Reddit for a long time, and back even before, when Alex was like 15 years old, or whatever age he was when there was a Technoblade subreddit, I started, it's like, wow, my kid is kind of making a splash here. And I went online to see where were there conversations happening about him. My first really big, like, what the heck moment was coming across a collection of pictures of people who were cosplaying as my teenage son, which is a trippy thing to experience with no warning, But that kind of made me start looking to Reddit and seeing that there were people talking about Technoblade. So I had been, lurking on that sub off and on for years. And, a few months after So Long Nerds came out, I ended up doing a live stream with Dream that was kind of, sharing anecdotes and memories and so forth. And somewhere on that live stream, I mentioned lurking in the Technoblade sub. And then a few days after that stream, I went on the Technoblade sub again, and there was a lot of talk about me, which was again quite trippy. People were like, he could be here right now, he could be reading this message.
And you were
and I was. Yeah. And then the other thing that happened was, which I sort of alluded to earlier, was there was all this grief, which I honestly did not. I was honestly surprised about. I was honestly unprepared for how much my son meant to how many people. It was kind of obviously very gratifying, but also like, wow. And they people were suffering, and I felt like I had to speak to that. I had to help. It was like I was called. I don't really know how to explain it very well. So what's funny is one of the first things that I thought of was, nobody's going to believe it's me. I totally anticipated.
Going back to this entire podcast, by the way.
I've been on the internet a long time, and as everyone knows, nothing on the internet is actually real, or that, that's everyone's first expectation. So I thought nobody's going to believe it's me. So I did a first post. I think it was my first post that had that anime. It was a meme I had made to send to Alex. It wasn't something I did for the public. It was a couple of frames from One Punch Man where Genos is talking about how amazing Saitama is, and I sort of retargeted it for how I felt about my boy. And so I published that with a lengthy introduction, hi, it's me, and I don't even remember what I said particularly, but I said, as far as like authenticating myself, I said, I am quite reluctant to post anything using my son's accounts, because that's kind of creepy, and I don't want to disturb people too much with that. But I do feel like this is an appropriate use of that. First of all, just so people can know that it's actually me, and second of all, because I know exactly what he would say to this message. And then I logged out as me, and I logged back in as him, and I posted a reply to my message. I said, "Nerd."
Oh my
yes.
god!
That was a perfect reply.
Yeah, that's what he would have said.
That's an iconic screenshot moment, isn't it? Like, you're posting that, and then all you get is nerd.
You mentioned
that's actually
already,
the post that convinced me that he was real.
I mean, it makes sense.
That was one where I had to lay down my pitchfork. I was like, I guess.
The hunt is over. We found the truth.
Back to you sort of mentioned it already, but when did Techno talk about it already, or talk about it quite openly, or was it through Reddit and so on that you found out about sort of his rise on YouTube and on the internet in general? Because obviously he was doing it for ages. There's a lot of old videos on there from him, but like to get to where he posted so many. I remember I was the first videos from him I saw were the Hypixel Olympics, which must have been back in like 2016 or 2017. But even before then, he was posting. So when did he mention, or did he just not mention it, and you had to find out what was basically happening?
There were various places, but he and I were very close, and due to various divorce-related disruptions to our lives, which I will sort of gloss over, it ended up being the case that it was a pretty common thing that it was just the two of us in my house, and so he spent a lot of time talking about what he was doing, and I feel like there were times where I was the sounding board for his jokes. And also he and I, riffed off of each other a lot. Humor is a big part of my life and was a big part of his life. And so we were constantly joking with each other about various things. But he was very clear from even before he created Technoblade. He was telling me about, I think it started with Team Fortress 2. He was very admiring of various TF2 YouTubers. And he also was the person who introduced me to the fact that that the gaming community has a strong charitable tradition, which I was very impressed with. And but I remember him telling me, I'm killing my old channel and I'm making a new channel called Technoblade, and it's going to be, get this, Dad, get this, it's a pig. So I'm like, okay.
He was right.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm just going to focus everything on Minecraft now, because that's where it's all happening. And I'm gonna have 10 million subscribers.
Yes.
Before I turn 21, 10 million subscribers. So that was in his mind from the very beginning. And I knew, because he talked about it so much, I knew that it was something he was really working on. And as he went, 5, 6, 10, 15,000 subs, it's like, wow, he's really working it. But the big breakthrough moment, the big what the heck moment, was seeing people cosplay as that pig, and the big wow, he's really breaking through, was the publication of the steering wheel video. He did like he did a 9-hour stream, and then a little bit after that there was like a 20-minute highlights video, and that video was his first like real breakout hit. So that was very exciting. I called all my friends. friends.
As you should. As you should have.
Yeah.
We had a question from Gomel on Twitter who asked, did Technoblade have a specific philosophy or approach for making YouTube content, and what his creative process was like?
How much you know about I guess that had to
Yeah.
He in a lot of ways he was a fairly private person, but honestly, he had a stick, and a lot of his creative process was pacing around the house, swinging a stick like it was a sword.
Oh my.
So he'd, sometimes at 2 a.m. and, sometimes even like my other kids complained about it. It's like he woke me up with the stomping. He was not a light-footed person, but he would do that. And another thing that was kind of funny was sometimes I'd hear him in his room, and a lot of the times when I could hear him in his room, it's because he was live, because he was yelling. But there were times where, there were times where I'd hear him in his room going, "Welcome, friends, to another episode of Sky Wars. Today we're going to be talking about welcome, friends, to another episode of Sky Wars. Today I want to talk about, PvP, something." I would hear him like trying out line readings over and over and over again. Not like 3 times, but like, 30 times. So that was always kind of wild too.
It's weird hearing the comparison, because like whenever I'm streaming or whatever, I'm always getting messages from my mom and dad just saying, "Quiet down, stop shouting." And it's so funny to hear like that same thing. It's because do you like ever see like a Twitter post or something online and you think, "Damn, we're always I mean, this might relate to you as well, Pixie. I reckon it will. You might see like a post and you're like, "Damn, we're all really living the same life. Like none of us have an original experience."
Yeah.
Like you'll see something like that there. Like obviously I know that most things are like that, but I didn't know it was a case of I think I'm talking quietly, but my parents can probably hear my entire conversation right now based on what I'm saying, and because they know about the podcast and they're like very supportive. Mm-hmm. And I guess like I wanted to ask as well, kind of linking into Garmel's thing there, is like how much did he? Because I'm always talking to my mum and dad about the podcast and content. I'm always talking to AJX about the content. How much did Techno come to and tell you about everything?
There was a lot, but it was by no means all. Like for whatever reason, he didn't talk very much about the Dream SMP stuff. A little bit, but I think he was kind of so into it, it almost wasn't a thing to talk about particularly. But then he talked constantly about Potato Wars. He was during the Potato Wars era. He was like, okay, Dad, I figured out that if I get 10 people in the blankety blank slot and then I give them this one item, gives me a 2% advantage. I mean, if you've heard Potato Wars, you know the kind of minutia he really got into. He would, as he was working all those things out, it was like he was talking constantly about it.
Did you have a question for that?
I've literally forgot it again.
I think
you have to. My
parents also heard about Potato War as it was happening, not from me, from my little brother.
See, mine as well.
My little brother is actually the one who got me into Technoblade in the first place. And I remember during the Potato War era, like he would come out of his room and be like, "You'll never guess what he just said." And we'll be like, "What? Who?" And he'd be like, Technoblade. He's figured it's like, and my brother loved him so much, and he thought he was just the smartest. So, and I think we might have also, my family might have also gotten real time updates about the things that were being figured out.
Mine too. Both my little brothers were the same as well. They would just constantly be talking about Potato Wars, and they played a lot of. It's on Hypixel. I can't remember the exact name of the game mode, but they basically were just trying to do the same sort of stuff, not to that level, trying to basically play it and get as good as possible on it, whatever technique possible.
Well, I asked him one day, because I didn't know what the Potato War was when it was happening. Like at the time, I was like, "Well, are you gonna join the war?" And he like looked at me like I was like insane, and was like, "One does not simply join the Potato War." And I was like, "Okay."
The way they said it as well.
Like,
one does not simply join.
He was like, "No," like I no, and he was appalled.
The art
hubris.
Of war is still
the hubris.
Yes, the art of war is basically still the Bible in my family after the potato war.
I mean, didn't Tommy mention on Turbo Stream the other day that like his girlfriend bought him the R1 circled or highlighted every single Technoblade quote? Could have sworn I saw a tweet about something, which is kind of crazy. Because I mean, that book is obviously famous, is obviously very popular, but like the younger generation, not really so much. It's like Techno did popularize it to the younger generation, which is it's crazy just to think how much good influence a creator can have if they're a good person, or in this case, like is a good person, you know?
Yeah, I was, I mean, imagine how any parent is going to feel hearing their kid inspiring millions and raising huge amounts of money for charity and so forth and so on. It was just like, I couldn't be any prouder. I couldn't be any prouder of a dad.
Cool. Talking of which, we mentioned Tommy before. You've met a few of Techno's friends, and I believe you're meeting up with Tommy at some point soon as well. How has that been, sort of meeting all these crazy people, all these quite insane personalities? How has it been for you as well, Pixie? Sort of.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been wonderful. I mentioned how a couple of months after, it's weird being someone who's Minecraft adjacent or formerly was Minecraft adjacent, and then the phone rings and it's like, hi, it's Dream, and then they start to explain who they are, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
How'd they get your number? But how'd they get your number in first?
I
randomly
honestly
called a house phone. Hi, is this Technodad? I'm a content creator with millions of subscribers. My name is Dream.
The name Dream
That must have been interesting.
that was pretty wild.
There was a period of time when we were organizing the festival where one of the first things that Technodad said to me was that he was like, when you're picking guests for this event, just know I have all of Techno's contacts. And I had to sit there because I was working out of a library like rental space at the time, and I had to sit there and like stare at my computer and go, okay. Everyone then. And so we made a list, but then for the next like 2 months there was a period of time where I would get added to these group chats and like these phone calls, and so I'd be like minding my own business, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm on the phone with Schlatt. This is great. This is what's happening right now. There was one time that sticks. I think we've told the story before, but it's very funny to me. Where I think you do too. It was kind of later for me, and I was done with my day, so I was like oiling my hair, and I had like a face mask in. I looked like a slug, and this is very important for this story, is that I did in fact look like a slug. And I get this call, and I didn't look at it. I just picked it up, and it was Technodad and Nikki Miachu. And I thought I was going to die. I was like, oh no. She's a content creator that I adored her content, and I am so excited to like be able to call her one of my friends now. But like that was crazy, and just stuff like that. Like I ended up meeting up with her at VidCon. Like she had me over. I met her cats, and stuff like that. And like I've met Amy, and I've met Gucky, and I've met some other folks. I'm going to go meet up with Tommy before Technodad does. I get to go hang out with him and Jack and I think Freddie next week. So where it's crazy though, because I watched the Dream SMP. I watched all that stuff. I was in it in 2020. Like I tell everybody all the time. I was like I am just like you guys. I was a fan first, and I just to be able to have these experiences. Sometimes I like it was crazy because while I was at Nikki's house, I was looking at her head on, and I was like, oh, this is so normal. Like I've seen this before. Like this is normal. And then she like walked around me to get some water, and I was like, oh, hold on, this is like a real thing that's happening. That's crazy. That's wild.
I felt bad about that because my thought going into it was, haha, this will be slightly droll to surprise her in this way.
I was so scared.
It was a really I apologized profusely for
it was very funny how sorry he was.
Oh, do tell.
I mean, you felt bad, right? And my goal was to be like a little funny, a little surprising.
I was shocked.
I didn't want you to feel bad.
Well, if
yeah.
there's any...
So,
oh, you're gone. Sorry.
No, you,
Oh no,
you go.
it was just funny.
I was gonna say, if it's any consolation, I didn't realize that like a few of my hairs were sticking up today at work until I went into the toilet at like 11 a.m. My shift started at 7:30 a.m. and nobody decided to tell me that I had a bunch of hairs sticking up. So if that's any consolation in any sense.
It is.
You work
Thank you.
in a house at a cafe as well, don't you? So,
Yeah, I
like
work in a
hundreds of
coffee
people.
shop. No customers decided to tell me that my hair was a mess, and it's like, okay, you know. And I work in like a pretty like we get a lot of like very smartly dressed people coming in, and there's me in my apron and hair sticking all over the place because I was running late, and it's like, oh god. You know,
that makes me feel so much better. It does. Thank you so much.
There we go.
I was going to say, Tommy is doing a tour of the U.S.
Yes.
And so he's going to be visiting a bunch of U.S. cities in turn, and he's going to be where, in Seattle? Is it?
Yep.
And there's a lot of different places he's stopping, but he's going to be in San Francisco, and so we're gonna. I'm not too far from San Francisco, so we're going to do he proposed that we get on stream together, so we're going to do something like that, probably in this very studio that I'm in right now. And I'm looking forward to meeting him in person. I've never been in the same room before. He's kind of, I don't know, London's kind of far away. Maybe not from you, but for me, it's kind of far away.
And
Not far away from us.
Not to plug the tour, but Tommy is a fantastic person. Love that man to death. And if you have the opportunity, you should go check out his tour tickets, because I know there are some cities who aren't sold out.
Are you going?
Yes.
Everywhere should be sold out.
Are you going to any of the shows?
Yeah, I'm gonna be there with my family when he's in San Francisco.
Pixie.
I'm going with a friend from university.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're driving. We have to drive like 5 hours to get there, so we're making a whole little trip of it.
Oh, wow. That's the difference between us and America there.
Okay, but if TommyInnit texts you and goes, "Do you want to be on the guest list for this show?" The answer is yes. I will go anywhere to do that.
I saw it. I saw it, the very first one, because him and I come from very similar areas. So yeah, I got to see the very first time he performed it. It is a wonderful show.
I'm actually in a TommyInnit video. In one of his Roblox videos, he shows like the London tour, the London show. Sorry, and you can see the back of my head. So
Very good.
so I'm actually famous now. So you know.
That guy is just hilarious. I ended up like a week ago or so, I saw something online that was a picture of him, and he said, "I had surgery on my balls."
Yes.
And I actually don't really know the details, but I wrote to him and I said, "You had surgery on your balls? Why am I only now hearing about this?" And he said, "Indeed I did. It was not as awesome as it sounds." And I said, it doesn't sound that awesome, if I'm being completely frank. And then we chatted about, rehearsals and stuff like that for a bit. And then at the end, what did he say? I said, signing off, I said, "I hope you make a full recovery in your balls."
Oh my God.
He said, "A boy can dream." And I said, dream of balls. And then
This is very Tommy. Cool.
I had to apologize. I said, "Sorry, I can't help myself. Ball jokes are too easy." And he said, "Haha, it's low hanging."
Oh my God.
So that is a very different conversation it's very funny. I think I might actually be better friends with his mom than I am with Tommy himself.
She followed you on all accounts or something, didn't she?
She did. I have a TikTok account. It's not like super well known because I shit post a lot, but it is my ProtonPixie TikTok account. And I sent her a TikTok of something, like I DM'd her a link on Twitter because she and I talk kind of frequently. And she like followed me on TikTok, and I was like, "Oh, yay! You can see my Dungeons and Dragons shit posting. This is so exciting."
His mum and my uncle are very good friends as well. So it's very weird when my uncle just brings up TommyInnit's mum, and I'm like, okay.
TommyInnit's mum is on my hit list a little bit. I won't lie. She ruined Baldur's Gate for me.
Oh!
Not to derail the conversation, and if you don't want to keep this, you don't have to.
No,
But
keep it. Why not?
I had been I played Baldur's Gate and I got really addicted, and I am in love with Gale. He's the wizard character that you can romance in that game. I tried to get Technodad to play it and he wouldn't. But I had been like thirst tweeting about Gale for like 2 weeks, and no. he's voice acted by a British gentleman named Tim Downey, and apparently Mrs. Simons knew him in drama school and had to tell me all about that. And then I was like, well, now I feel weird because you've been liking all these tweets for the last 2 weeks about like one of your old school buddies. And now I can't look at it the same way anymore.
I guess while we're like talking about Tommy and like content creators and stuff like that, I have another Twitter question here. And normally we save them to the end, but like these are so good, like link into the conversation. So that's one is from Magister. I'm so sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. I love your art. There we go. I made up for it. There is a. So I'm gonna read out the entire thing here, and you've kind of answered some of it, but just to do the entire question. How is the community? Like, does it become too much sometimes, especially considering that you've never done something like this before? I know you said you've been like online and stuff like that, so that's why I said about reading the whole question. But like, you know, kind of this is a whole new world in a sense, and even to me, I've only been in this community for a year, and it still feels really new to me. So like, how was it kind of talking to all these people, and just suddenly out of nowhere, bang, it's like I've entered a whole new space, or like more so involved in a whole new space, if that, because obviously you were in it through Techno, but more so like involved kind of thing.
Yeah, so, you know, well, it's sort of weird, right? Because I mean, first of all, I think I've already mentioned a couple of places where my life has just kind of been, you know, surreal. The odd thing about my role in the community is that it is intimately tied up with the death of my son, you know, which is like a kick in the pants, I guess, is the euphemism I will go for. And there are times where I've been a little overwhelmed by it. To give you an example, I generally not. Generally, I'm fine. But every once in a while, there was a couple of times there's been a thread on Reddit about where were you when you found out Technoblade died? And it ends up being hundreds and hundreds of people telling this story about getting blindsided by this terrible news that left them feeling just awful. And that's been like the one conversation topic where I just can't even be in that thread. I just can't even read it because, you know, I read one and it's like, wow, that's really, you know, that there's a lot of emotion there and it's very, you know, very real. And then I read the second one, it's like, oh, wow, that's heavy. And then I realize there's like 150 more in the thread, and it's just I'm gonna go watch Futurama. I can't. I just can't. It just wiped me out. But mostly it's not too weird, and it's very gratifying. It's very wonderful to be able to make connections with people, and you know, I have. Another thing that's surreal is that the universe kind of like dropped, like this, like the Mister Technodad position that I'm in is something that just kind of dropped on me. Like, boom, you're Mister Technodad now. And so like people online are like asking me, I'm in this difficult situation, what do I do about it? And I give them my best answer, and then people are like, wow. And I don't have that experience in the rest of my life. It's not when my kids ask me for help and I give them my best whatever, they're like, okay, thanks, Dad. I'm sort of being facetious there. My kids are actually great, but it's wild to be able to share my life experience in a way that's helpful and well received with lots of other people.
Yeah,
I like that part.
I definitely relate to that.
I mean, you know, you mentioned the name Mister Technodad there, and you kind of mentioned about like how the whole like way you're in this community. But I mean, on like a more positive note is obviously we're here on the podcast today and to talk about this and to honor, and I think it's been great. So thank you so much again, both of you, for coming on. But like,
absolutely. You
do also have your own content. You do have your own content creation lives now. I mean, you're Mister Technodad. You uploaded a video a month ago. Old Fart Plays Evil Company.
Yeah, we did.
9 months ago, TommyInnit taught me how to play Minecraft. Again, only the name next to it, talking about Tommy. And like you've done a lot of like, I mean, even then, I ran a Minecraft charity event. Yes, it was for Technoblade, but the video you made is by you on your channel, something you did. And Pixie, you're streaming. You obviously have a very active shitpost TikTok account. You know, you post about Baldur's Gate lovers on Twitter. Like, you do both have your own like lives and your own content creation away from it. And as much as you are linked to it, it's like me. I mean, I sometimes stream on the Insane Orbits account. AJX streams on the AJX account and stuff, but we are still linked to InsideMC. It's a rough comparison, but the comparison's still there. And it's like, you know, so how, I guess a question for the both of you. I mean, you answered yours already, Pixie, to be fair, because you said it came from a science book. But you, Mister Technodad, was it at first like Technodad works, we're sticking with it, or did you go for a few names of like, what do I go with here? Or was this like hit it first time, perfect, and have stuck with it ever since?
Well, you know, I mentioned de-lurking on Reddit back in October of 22, and you know, there was a lot of before I de-lurked, there was a lot of people talking about me, and then there were various speculations, and there were a bunch of different names that they had for me. Technodad being the most common one and the one I liked the most, and you know, there was also names like Father Blade and you know, various different variations on the same idea. But I really liked the name Technodad because it was connected to Technoblade, who I obviously a lot of feelings for. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to do this, I should come up with a name that I can be mine, and that I don't have to like come up with a random name every time I go to a new platform. So I figure I at least need something that's available on YouTube and Reddit. And there was already a YouTuber named Technodad. He was like a dad type YouTuber who would help you, you know, set up your VCR or whatever. It seemed like a good guy. So that wasn't available, but every so often people referred to me as Mister Technodad, and that was free everywhere. So I grabbed that. That's how the name came about. But I've been flirting with the idea of being a content creator. I've always imagined myself behind the camera, but life didn't really work out that way. I always wanted to make features.
I mean,
and yeah, I still may. But that was my plan for a long time, and it hasn't really. I still haven't made a feature. I certainly have made some short films, and now I'm making YouTube stuff. So it just, you know, life unfolds however it unfolds. Kind of, we have a lot of control, but it's not up to us.
Yeah, that. I actually never set out to do content creation. I know I stream, I know I tweet a lot, and stuff like that. But that was never a thing that I set out to do. And actually, I have I get like subs and bits and every now and then, but all of that just goes right to the Sarcoma Foundation, because I don't like. I think that my brand is so closely tied to Technoblade stuff and the Technodad brand that I would feel wrong accepting money for that, especially when the reason that I started doing it in the first place is I kept getting messages from people who, particularly young, like neurodivergent women and like femme presenting people, who were like, I never thought that someone like me could do what you do, could have gone from freelance to something like this. And it's on top of holding and protecting a legacy and a community that has meant so much to me and to my family personally, the idea of seeing young people seeing someone like them do the things that I have been privileged enough and lucky enough to be able to do is very important to me. I believe that there's a place for everybody, and that everybody's dreams there is a way to realize them. It might not look the way that people think. This certainly does not look the way that I thought it would when I started out. But I want very much for people like that to see that it's okay, and that it gets better, and that you can walk through that, and you can walk above that, and you can be successful in all of the ways that matter to you, and you can do all of the things that matter to you, and you don't have to compromise who you are or what you're about or your integrity to do it. So, while ProtonPixie is very much like it's an alliteration. It's based off. I saw the word proton in a chem textbook, and I went proton pixie, and then like that was it. I think that it's so much more than that now, because I want people to see it and be like, oh, like she did it, I can do it too, and like that's very important to me.
I also am the social media manager, or now marketing, but I do it for a very boring corporate company, which is very soulless. Hopefully they'll never see this podcast. I want to just go on. How does it feel like sort of doing what you do for such an important cause as well, and that linking to the fact what you said basically. You achieve this, right, and it's good to inspire others to do it, and for important causes basically. That's where I'm trying to link it to.
Yeah. It's insane. It's absolutely like especially this month. We're going to Boston at the end of the month. We're going to be at PAX East. And I grew up like with my dad, who was a big video game kind of guy. We would like watch like PAX panels and stuff. And so the first time going to be on a panel with like one of my heroes' father, like, and who's now my friend, and like in that whole and Stacy and everything, and to talk about this thing that we've built, that like I have all of the memories of sitting in all of the rooms, like putting it together and workshopping it and building it, and like I made the logo for the foundation and stuff like that. It's surreal. And so to say that like Technoblade changed my life in one of the most dramatic ways a person's life could be changed is almost feels like an understatement. It's incredibly humbling, and I am like, and I feel like people think that I have all the answers a lot of the time, but I feel like it's InsideMC, so I'll give you the inside scoop, is that I am terrified a lot of the time, because the legacy that we work on and the legacy that I get to move in and around is so enormously powerful and enormously deep and ingrained in an entire generation and an entire community. Like there is not a person that I have met who has not at the very least heard the name Technoblade, which is an insane, like I still go to university and I see people every day wearing merch that I have helped work on. And to see that in real life, and to meet people and to go to conventions, because I'm still a nerd, I still go to like Comic-Con and stuff like that, and to see people cosplaying to cosplay Technodad, or to see people cosplaying like the man whose legacy I like my whole job is centered around, is one of the most mind-blowing things, I think. And like to be able to have like introduced my little brother to the father of his hero is like one of the things that like I will forever remember what his face looked like when I was able to do that. And like I think that and I whenever we release new things and we work on things and things go well, I see his face light up like that. And I hope that like other people's like little brothers and little sisters and little siblings all like, I hope that that's the feeling that they get. And so it's exciting, it's exhilarating. I feel like I'm flying a lot of the time, but it's also terrifying and very scary and stressful. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I really wouldn't.
A bit of a slightly not weirder question per se, but it's like half off topic, half still on topic. For the both of you here, how much do like your like how would I word this, like in-person acquaintances? That's probably the best word and I can get there from this. How much do these people know about what you guys do online? Like for instance, my work colleagues, as far as they're aware, I just edit for my friend's podcast. And, I want to tell them about the podcast, but I don't want to tell them about the podcast. So they just I edit for. Right. So how much like your in-person acquaintances know about like all of this?
Technodad, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
I could start. I mean, certainly my immediate family is quite aware of everything going on. My sister follows my Reddit, nice. and I believe she's subscribed to my channel as well. And I have I have a couple of adult nieces, one of whom is part of the gaming community. So I certainly she's familiar with everything going on. Some of my friends know. I don't know. It's sort of weird, right? Because it's like somebody I had a long. I mean, I'm sort of a vaguely internet celebrity kind of thing, which is a sort of a weird thing to be. And I want to keep the quality of my existing friendships and relationships the same. So I try not to play that up too much. I try to be the same person I've always been. On the other hand, it's so much of what I'm doing now that I don't always have a lot other than that to talk about. So
but that's different,
just play it by ear.
That's different though, because it's like there's a difference between you're passionate about what you do, you're talking about it, compared to look at me, I'm famous, my ego is now inflated. Like that's you're getting you very much give those vibes that you are just genuine, you are passionate, and you're happy with it. I mean, like as far as I'm aware, you mentioned it earlier, you guys are going to be having a panel at PAX East or something along those lines.
Yes. Yes.
So like if you weren't passionate about it, you wouldn't be on a podcast today. You wouldn't be standing on a panel talking to a bunch of people who love you guys and love what you do, kind of thing. And you would just kind of be to yourself, kind of like, oh, in this. I mean, today talking about it's all genuine, it's all great. None of it's bragging, none of it's showing off. It's all just like that's why I loved it so much. It's just a nice conversation.
I will say though that that doesn't happen by accident. I guess it's like if you actually used to say this to Alex all the time. It's like be careful because success has traps in it, particularly for the young, right? But one thing I sort of have going for me is I have many decades of being who I am, and so I've got kind of more momentum. But I've seen this happen with young people in tech where they have, out the gate they have some huge success, and that changes their perception of how difficult success is, and it can be very easy to get a swelled head. And so I am active in being careful about like when I start hearing like lots and lots of praise, I start thinking to myself, okay, is that really true? Do I want to let that change how I think about myself? You have to be careful. You have to be careful because humans can just drop into this like I'm great thing very easily. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who's tweeting stuff about what a genius I am.
People have a lot of main character syndrome.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to be that.
As someone who knows Technodad, like off camera and like when we're kind of just like either hanging out or just like working behind the scenes, I can confirm that he is exactly the same on camera as he is off camera. And yeah, I think I'm very, very lucky in that like I have been on the internet for a while, but this is the first thing that I've worked on that is so public and so successful. But in that both Technodad and his wife Stacy have done tremendous good by me in terms of mentorship and support. They are some of the most incredible people I've ever had the privilege of being co-workers with and also friends with. And they have done a lot in terms of helping to handle the adjustment, because there was a moment there where I was like, oh wow, there's so many people who care so much, and it's a little scary when you realize that. But just to have two people who are very secure and very, very aware and intelligent who can kind of catch you when you slip a little bit. And in terms of your friend's question, I don't have a lot of IRLs. I am a very anxious person, and there came a point where I started noticing more and more people wearing merch that I had actively helped work on, that I stopped leaving. Like, I don't go on my campus a lot. It stresses me out. I just don't, like, I'm worried that people will figure out where I live.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And stuff like that. But I have a couple IRLs who know absolutely everything. Shout out to Ellie and Tori. They know who they are. I'll send them a link to this podcast. Who do a fantastic job at both being incredibly supportive and kind and loving, and also reminding me that I ain't all that. And I adore them, and I have a lot of wonderful online friends and community who are so kind and supportive. And actually, my roommate, I met her before I met Technodad, and I met her because of Technoblade. That I had a sticker on my water bottle. It was from Zelda, but she thought it was a Technoblade sticker, and she asked me, she's like, "Do you know what the Dream SMP is?" And I nearly like died in the middle of my chemistry class. But now we live together, and she edits for Technodad, and she's coming with us to Boston, and so either that's fun, and she also does a fantastic job of being supportive and a good sounding board, and people who are and my parents. My mom has a Technoblade Never Dies hoodie that she wears everywhere that I got for her, and she loves the quote unquote angry little pig on it. And she wears that thing everywhere, and she brags all the time. She tells everybody she knows, which is, I'm like, okay.
It's the exact one I'm wearing.
I love that. No, it's really funny because both when I started doing all the stuff that I do, I started back in like 2020, and both of my parents were very concerned that I was going to make no money forever, and it was going to be unsustainable, and I was going to burn myself out. And so they're both delighted that I have a full-time job now, and that I can
love as well.
Doing what I love, and they laugh and they say it's the most you thing we've ever seen. So I am very. I told them about PAX, and I was and neither of them were shocked. And I was like, "Aren't you guys like excited and surprised?" And they're like, "We're not surprised in the slightest." And I was like, "Oh, okay, thanks, guys."
I think it's actually going to be my first public appearance.
It is. It's your first public appearance.
Is this your first time like actively talking on something? If that makes any sense at all. Like I know you've been on stream, but like I guess this isn't exactly publicly talking per se, but like someone being here asking you constant questions.
Oh, I guess I don't know. Have I been interviewed like this before?
Yeah,
I don't know if I have.
We do Discord stages a lot where we get community questions, and so sometimes like those last hours, and it's just like me being the voice of the community interrogating him.
That's fair enough.
I was gonna mention you talked about merch, and I obviously have a bunch of techno merch and so on, and I think it just shows how sort of powerful merch can be and how powerful Technoblade was. That no matter where I go, I still get people go, "Nice jumper," like all different types of ages. I'm like 24, and then I get people up to like 11 or up to even much older than me go just like "nice jumper" or "oh, it's techno," or so on and so forth. Yeah. So I think just the merch has just done so much wonder for the community. And my mum bought my brother's bunch of merch, so she still gets emails, and she still every time she gets an email, she'll send it me, despite me getting the same email. So that's always a love thing.
If I'm not like 3 blocks from my house, I do go and say hi to people who are wearing Technoblade merch. Right after I got hired, I was in Idaho. I was at the Gem State Comic-Con, and we had hammered out all the details for the festival and everything. Like I knew what was going to happen. I knew when it was going to happen, and there were a bunch of Technoblade cosplayers, but no one knew who I was yet. No one knew that this was happening. It hadn't been released. And I was actually in Star Wars cosplay, so like that was really funny too. But I went and I told a couple of Technoblade cosplayers, I told them everything, and they were like, "Who even are you? And like, why are you saying this?" And I was like, "Because you don't believe me, and because you won't believe me. But then when a time will come where you will look back on this, and no one is going to believe you if you tell anyone that this happened." And,
happens.
Yeah, so there's like maybe 12 Technoblade cosplayers wandering around the greater Boise area who have a weird story.
And you've just told it on a podcast to confirm it.
Yep, I can confirm. If you're a Technoblade cosplayer in Boise, and last year, a girl in a Padme Amidala cosplay harassed you about an event that you didn't believe, now you know.
I could see you as a Boba Fett, maybe.
Thank you. It's a Mandalorian.
Yeah, right.
High honor.
I wonder if they went out their way to try and prove that you were fake. You know, like a certain scenario.
That would be so funny. That'd be so full circle. Like, I know she's lying. I know she's full of shit.
I guess still on the topic of merch here, and like linking this into you here, Mister Technodad. You actually have merch coming soon, I believe, right? There's a website that requires a password. I haven't attempted the password. I'm not going to attempt the password either. But you know, if you want to give us the password after the podcast, that's fine. You know, I don't mind if you trust us. But when can we expect this to start? Because it's I guess this is kind of linking into the charity now as well. Obviously, you go on the One of Us Global site, which we'll talk more about the charity section. It's just because this is linking perfectly. There's a merch option. When you click on the merch option, it takes you to MrTechnodad.com/password. It says coming soon. So what can we expect there?
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of the usual kinds of things, t-shirts and hoodies and so forth. I think we have some, I like the designs we have pretty well. And there's a few that have, sentiments that I'm very happy about, and that things I'm saying to people regularly, one of which is, you are worthy of love, because I see so many people online with, struggling with self-esteem, which is something I certainly struggled with for many years. And the idea that there are some people where when they hear the idea that they're actually worthy of love, that it's kind of a radical notion, which itself is a shame. And if that I think that's a good thing to put on a t-shirt. It's a good message to get out. So yeah, there's one that's an old bald guy in Japanese dress kneeling under a tree. That's an image from a video I did. I don't know if everybody knows the background, but there's a famous episode of the show Avatar: The Last Airbender, in which Uncle Iroh goes and visits. He goes and walks up a hill, and it's very sad, and remembers his son. And I ended up making a video that's inspired by that particular segment of that episode, where I do various things throughout my day that are things that have become a part of my life, possibly as part of being Mister Technodad, possibly things that have been there all this time. And then it ends with me doing a similar visit to Alex. It's very sad, but I really like it, and it's far and away my most popular video. So we have that image on a t-shirt, and I feel very affectionate towards that idea.
Honestly, I love those kind of t-shirt. Like,
yeah,
there's one I have, and my wardrobe. I should have grabbed it. I didn't know this was going to be a topic, so I didn't plan ahead. But it has like a little like thing on the front of it, and it's like this blue wave thing, and it has like writing. I don't want to say the language in case I'm completely wrong. And it has on the back, it's like something. Anyways, one of the customers, they actually have that same thing on their mug, so they bring their own like mug into the shop because you get a discount, and they have like that exact same thing on the mug that I have on my t-shirt and stuff like that. It's like this nice, like really like nice blue wave painting. So just like t-shirts like that, it's really nice. Is it going to be, out of curiosity, is it just going to be on like the front or the back, or is it going to be something on the front and something on the back? Is it going to be, because I love those t-shirts where there's something small on the front in the chest area and there's something massive on the back?
Yeah, I think that's the general direction that we've gone in. I
think you're gonna like it.
Configuration as well.
I know I'm gonna like it, if from just your explanation there, it sounds like something I'd wear. So shipping is so expensive. It's worth it, but it's so expensive to England.
Yeah.
Like when
there's distance.
The Technoblade jumper that we have, like we bought one because it's just I think shipping was like at the time like £10-20. I'm like, it's obviously worth it, and it's for like it's good, but it's £20 for a jumper. It's so expensive. Or like just shipping alone.
Shipping, yeah.
It kills me how much shipping costs these days, but I do what I can.
It's the price you pay.
That's not.
Right?
It's not very much. It turns out there's not a lot.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like if you really want something, I mean, it's like if you buy a house, it's obviously going to be really expensive. But if you really want it, you're going to spend that money. Like if you really want something like that, you'll kind of buck it up. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not complaining about the shipping costs. I'm just simply saying that it's expensive. But if I cared that much, I wouldn't have got the jumper. So
complaining about the shipping costs is totally valid, though. 20, that's insane.
I feel like that's part of the experience at this point.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, partially so.
Part of it is the devastation of international shipping.
Will we see any like merch collabs? Because I remember getting an email a little while back on the Technoblade merch. There was like a collab with like Tommy and a few others. So they had like their custom stuff. Will we see any on the Technodad site in the future, collab merch?
I love that idea. There's nothing coming in the near term, but I definitely love that idea. And as you say, we've done a fair bit of that with the Technoblade site.
I was so proud of those collabs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Skeppy.
Do you want to know something funny about those collabs?
Yeah, hit us with it.
I do.
This is the funniest thing to me, and I will never get over it. The first draft of the TommyInnit design, everything else was amazing. Everything else was brilliant. It was so well done. It was so well curated, but the TommyInnit one was so interesting in that they had picked for like the main, like the principal color, this like strange flesh beige. Coupled with like the like shaky lining, it like when I tell you guys, it looked like a little flesh monster. I'm not exaggerating. And so we had to workshop that one. But like the Flesh Tommy logo lives in my head. That's my Roman Empire. It never leaves me.
I guess one last thing, and then we'll probably start talking about the charity a little bit more as well. It's just a general question here. By any chance, is that Technoblade tie-dye denim jacket coming back into stock at any point? Because I missed it because I didn't have a payday. I'm subscribed. I'm waiting for a notification. Is it coming back soon? I want to get in double extra large, but it's sold out, and I really want it.
I'll tell you the boy. Again, there's no immediate plans for it, but I have to say I don't always love the idea that we just have something for a little while, because I hear that from people all the time. Oh, the blanket! I didn't get the blanket. Is it ever going to come back? And so many people saying stuff like that. It's like, I kind of feel like if something is the least bit popular, then we should keep it in stock. I guess that kind of goes against the usual way that marketing people think about things, but
I just saw
Curse Chad and his scarcity mindset.
I missed it. I was like, no, because it was limited edition as well. I'm saying it was limited edition. I'm reading it, and it literally says limited edition out of 500. And it's just like, I missed it because I didn't have payday, and it's like, and looking back on it now, it's still on the sign. I'm just, and I was just curious if it was ever going to come back. Maybe it will. I'm subscribed. I'm waiting for the notification, and I have like a little. I don't, but I have like savings anyways. That I can kind of take some out anyways when it comes. So.
We will see, and just know that I am waggling my eyebrows very mischievously.
Oh, no. DM me, Pixie, when it happens. Like, literally just start spam pinging me. Orbits. This time.
I got you.
Thank you.
I'll let you know 12 hours before everyone else knows.
All right. Okay. Be careful what you promise. All right.
I'm not above petty leaks. I leaked the Technodad in a wig. I've leaked merch before. I leaked the entire event. If there's an opportunity for a very funny, very harmless leak, I think it's silly.
I'm not gonna go like announce it like, oh my god, this should come back, because obviously I want an advantage, so I'm not gonna tell anyone about it.
Orbits on Twitter, guys, you will not believe what I just heard.
And it turns out just not be true.
Yeah, I'll just lie to you.
That'd be perfect. So now I think it's a good time to go on to the amazing organization, the One of Us Foundation, or Global Foundation. We have got a Twitter question from CDog the Pro, which I think is a good way to start off. What does it take to run an organization as big as One of Us?
Oof. Well, lots of committed people is certainly the first thing. People, it's always people, right? It's always who are the good people and who's getting what done, and people are the ultimate resource, not dollars, people.
We have a really incredible team.
Yes,
we have a couple really incredible teams, and I'm gonna brag about them really quick. We have the Youth Advisory Committee, which is from the beginning, the goal was to center youth voices, and so we have a team of very, very brilliant and compassionate and dedicated young people who are helping us drive the whole thing. They're helping us steer the ship, and they're absolutely incredible. We have a fantastic and very experienced and very diverse board of advisors, and we have I'm only a little bit biased because I'm the director of social impact there as well. Is that we have the social impact team who are incredible and so talented and so creative and brilliant and dedicated and incredible hard workers, and some of the most lovely people I've had the privilege of working with.
And let me tell you, I just want to take the opportunity to plug my wife, because she is the greatest thing ever, and she's also worked in philanthropy her entire life. She's straight out of college, went into working for nonprofits, and has done so ever since. Yes, Stacy. And there was a point where I was talking to to a lawyer about various things, and I said, and in addition to this, that, and the other thing, we're looking at forming a nonprofit foundation, and he went right into I usually advise my clients not to do that, to find an existing organization, because there's really a lot of things involved in good management, and he had a very, very solid rationale for why you wouldn't want to do that. And I said to him, would it change your opinion if I had the foresight several years ago to marry someone who has worked in nonprofit administration her entire life, like at the C-suite level? He said, well, yes, it would. For some years, I was hearing from my wife about philanthropic organizations were done, and not to be too cliche, but the whole thing about how you've got older, wealthier people dictating policy and well-meaning, good people and everything, but still there's kind of this unspoken assumption that those are the people who know what the right thing to do is, and she's just never agreed with that. And so we're really benefiting from her leadership in terms of setting down the principles that we're operating under, a big one of which is listening rather than speaking, and that's has a lot to do with why we're gathering up committed and passionate young folks, because they're full of not just energy but also good ideas and understanding. I mean, it's a cliche at this point that people my age just don't really understand the struggles of young people, and I think a lot of that has to do with not just how much things have changed, but also how a lot of people aren't very good at listening to young people. So we're trying to change that. We're trying to put young people front and center, and so far that's working out real well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we Technodad and I are frequently in competition to be like the president or vice president of the Stacy fan club. She's incredible, and not to do the whole this is all the reasons. She is one of the most brilliant women I've ever had the opportunity to work with, and hashtag Women's History Month. She is so inspiring and graceful and poised in even the most confusing of situations. She has this effect of being able to both soothe and empower everybody around her, which is amazing to see in a leader. And just being able to be mentored by her and to help and to have that is one of the most valuable things I've ever been. And she's also a Grammy award-winning singer, so shout out to her for that.
Oh, wow. She really is an amazing singer. I want to do more with her voice in my videos, but if you so far the only thing I've got is very much worth seeing, but it's just a couple of minutes worth, is she and a couple of her chorus mates are sing on my Happy Birthday My Son video. A couple of minutes in, she has her voice is just what? She starts to sing and it's I can't even, what am I even listening to?
Just truly beautiful.
Yeah.
We also have a team of very incredible facilitators and advisors who have helped us a lot in terms of cultural sensitivity and in terms of inclusion and making sure that the foundation and all of its internal systems are accessible to everybody who is currently involved and will be involved in the future. And so we're working on some pretty fantastic stuff. I know we're going to have one of our youth advisors is going to the UN, the UN conference on the status of women as a youth delegate. So we're very proud of everybody involved. They're all incredible, and
it's literally a worldwide group out the gate.
Yeah,
I think if people are curious into seeing the people themselves who are involved in the foundation, we're on social media as One of Us Global, pretty much everywhere. I think InsideMC tagged them with the announcement post. Yes, and so we're kind of releasing bios and photos of everybody who's involved, which is very exciting. And you can kind of go and meet the people who are working on things before we start rolling out some of our bigger, larger scale projects.
The Twitter account is certainly amazing, and it's gonna be great for promotion aspects and just keeping up a lot more with the One of Us Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You touched on it there a bit about the importance of having the young people on board and sort of how they are, I'd want to put this lightly, more maybe socially conscious about everything that's going on, and the world, and sort of I think the internet had a huge role in sort of combining us together. So I think that plays nicely alongside the fact that a whole community was brought together by Techno, and then this sort of continues that onwards.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, you know, I was very happy that we could bake right into the name. We were spending a lot of time looking for the right name, and one day I seized on the idea of, you know, that the name itself should come from the community, and so I started thinking, like, what are things that I hear people in the Technoblade community say a lot, and so I went to Stacy and I said, hey, what if we call it E?
That
was it, because people say E.
Yes,
and
E.
She said no, and I said, okay, here's something else people say a lot: one of us. And that we ran with that.
One of us.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's just, I'm very happy with it thematically being right in line with what we're doing. Because it's not about, like, you know, people with money telling other people what to do. It's about, let's all work together to make the world better.
Which I think is such a, like, important thing right now.
Yes.
And it has been forever, but especially as we sort of gain, I'd say, more momentum online, everyone knows, you know, there's such hurt in the world and so on. So I think the fact it is all of we talked about it at the start, the fact we are all small and the universe is huge, but we are all together on this small planet as all these small people, but together we're much, much bigger. Like we are the only species that we know of that sort of have all this knowledge and can do all this stuff, and we are as a group so much stronger than as just singular human beings on this tiny little rock floating through space.
Well, and the foundation was the only, in my opinion, the only natural response to what the community was already doing. I look back on the time of Alex's diagnosis and then his passing, and the hundreds of thousands of dollars raised towards sarcoma research and treatment. I look at all of the fact that, like, one of the most common questions I get asked is, can I use Technoblade imagery in this fundraiser? Can I do this to raise money? Can I do XYZ? Can I do this to change the world for the better? And I think that there's something that we used, a quote of Alex's that we used in the trailer for the festival, where it was I don't care about, like, what you like, I care about your end game. I care about, like, what is your goal? What are you working towards? And that has kind of stuck with me as we've been working on this whole thing, is that the community, the people in Techno's community and in the surrounding communities have already been working so hard to make positive change and to make a difference and to make an impact in their communities and in the people around them. And, like, even in, like, TommyInnit's community and Tubbo's community and stuff like that, like, it has spread so much farther than just one or two people. And so I think that taking that and organizing it into something that is, like, both official and funded and supported was the only natural response to a community that has already been beating at a lot of these so-called boundaries and limits that have been imposed on young people, especially during COVID, especially during lockdown and everything. A community that has already been so adamantly in favor of social good.
I know we're probably a little bit past this now, but I want to go back and ask it, because this is going to be the first podcast where I on upload have timestamps. Okay, so many people have been asking me to add it, and I finally decided to buck up the courage to go back and over time add timestamps to 88 podcasts. But this one is going to be the first one where it happens on upload. And so for the sake of the timestamp here, and in case anyone wants to kind of specifically to jump to this, what actually is the One of Us Foundation? Because I feel like we've talked a lot about it, but, like, we haven't really touched on what it is. And I guess, like, it's kind of obvious why it came to be, but I just kind of want to hear it in your words nonetheless.
Yes, we did have a lot of people sort of ask, you know, what are the plans, what it is, so on.
Yeah, so I mean, at the most, you know, basic level, it's a organization formed under what's called the 501c rules for nonprofit organizations in the United States. It's what's called a private foundation, which has, there's public and private foundations. They're sort of different things. I mean, they're mostly the same, but there's a few differences. This gets into a lot of stuff that, Stacy is the expert on, but
well, from what you can say, anyways, like it doesn't have to be the most perfect explanation, but hearing it from you specifically, it means on.
I mean, the Technoblade legacy part of it, we've sort of talked about. I was always just so blown away by my son's fundraising efforts, which he, worked on even before he had a diagnosis, doing things for Team Trees, for example. And then there was also something else that Stacy has been saying to me for years, again, since well before any of this was on the horizon, was the kind of the stuff that Pixie was just saying, that we are looking at a generation of young people that are in some ways different than anything that's come up before. They're more socially conscious. They're more connected, thanks in part to the internet and in part to their own tendencies. And they have more like confidence in their own ideas. Yeah. They're more willing to say, hey, let us try to understand these things about ourselves, even though there's all kinds of old people making fun of the idea of pronouns, for example. It's like, yeah, we're doing that anyway. We're doing that anyway because it's important, and we don't care if you're making fun of us. That's just the amount of potential there is there for social change and for making the world a better place is just huge. And what I think we bring to the table, I don't think I can overemphasize just how important it is to say that it's actually the young people that we're working with who are doing the work. It isn't me. I'm not the one who's making the world a better place. It's these young people that are doing it. The thing that we bring to it, I think, is organization. Stacy and I and a lot of the people that Stacy's brought in are really quite good at building these kinds of organizations and making them work in a way that's functional. And then we can bring resources, we can bring organizations like the festival, the Festival of Voices we did that we're going to be doing again. That brings us together the resources that we can then use to fund the ideas that the people in the organization and also the people outside who are talking to us come up with. So yeah, it's what the foundation is a way to organize and take good advantage of the goodness, the good ideas and the passion and the energy and the compassion that young people are overflowing with today, and make it effect change.
And to be very specific on how that looks in practice, there are 101 amazing youth-led initiatives, youth who are starting projects, be it in STEM fields or in social advocacy fields or in research fields. Young people are doing incredible things all the time, and so a big part of what the One of Us Foundation is going to do is seek those initiatives out, those young people out, and find them and support them and amplify them. So be it through funding, be it through mentorship, be it through scholarship, whatever that looks like. It's hard to explain specifically what the foundation does because it is very case-to-case basis. It doesn't always look the same initiative to initiative. And a lot of what we're doing right now is we're making sure that we're starting the decision-making processes and the checks and balances internally on a note that's positive and that's very ethical and very holistic. And so that's a lot of what the foundation is doing right now. But when we start to move out into more public projects, that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like a lot of fundraising to then funnel that money back into youth-led initiatives and things to support the youth people. It's going to look like scholarships. It's going to look like mentorship programs. It's going to look like workshops. It's going to look like youth advocacy programs and stuff like that, to be like more concrete about like what can people expect to see from us going forward.
Fair enough.
I think something you hit the nail on the head there is it is going to change the world. Even if it's small, which let's hope it isn't. I think it's going to be huge. But this stuff is going to change. Sort of, we're already seeing a change in the world from generation to generation, and this stuff is just going to continue on for the better, which is just wonderful that it's happening, right? And this organization has managed to come together to make that significant change happen.
That's certainly all of our dream. Yeah. And I'll just also mention too that we're actually really new. We're just over a year old, so
yes,
we're still in the very early upswing kind of stage.
But I mean, you're off to a flying start.
I like
you
to
are
think
doing
so.
really, really well. I mean, even just little things like this, right? I mean, I was good with the Twitter announcements. So normally when I announce a guest on the account, I add underneath it's oh, want to know where to listen, and it's this kind of copy paste of just kind of promoting the podcast a little bit. But under this guest announcement, I posted a nice little part of it's copy paste, part of it's my own wording. It said, One of Us Global was created in memory of Alexander Technoblade and is an organization that strives to help young people find their voice and realize their dream. You can find more about the charity here, and then it's the link to the charity. It's even little things like that. It's just that got 28 likes, that reply. I mean, that's a lot more than most of my replies get to my own tweets. And that's so it's just even just little steps like that, I don't know how well this podcast is going to do, I'm not going to assume, but even just talking about it today, and it's nice with the charity, with the conversations, with even just the name Technodad. It's constantly nice to keep things known, keep things alive. The charity name, brand, the memories through little things, even just sending a link in a DM. So I feel like you probably had a question to end off your thing there, AJX, but you tend to go on this talk and then you're you have a question and then you forget to ask it. So I have a strong feeling there's probably a question there, right?
No, how do you sort of touched on it? How do you feel making that change to the world? Sort of is the biggest thing, because I think it's such a monumental feeling. We've talked a lot about sort of someone's sort of space in the universe, right? But then there's also a space in the world we live in, and what people can do to make other people's lives better, which I feel is just so important. We talked about sort of karma and so on. All this sort of stuff sort of goes down to how are you feeling about the project as a whole? And are you excited, basically?
I'm thrilled to death. And I've said about 10 different times here that I'm so gratified, and I feel so fortunate, and that so much of what's happened in my life has been so wonderful. But there's an interesting thing. So just to sort of jump on the other side, sometimes as I watch all of this stuff happening, I feel a little out of date, because it's I'm well over halfway through my life, and watching all of this stuff happening and the way that young people work together and their enthusiasm is wonderful and gratifying, and also not always accessible in myself anymore, because it's oh boy, I would have to get up at 7 a.m. to make something like that happen. And that's challenging. So I'm glad that my role is my role, because that's something I can do. I can do things I can be Mister Technodad, but I don't have the insight that young people today have. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the feet on the ground, as it were, to be able to think the way they think. So I can only admire and be grateful that I can help enable the work that they want to do. So there's just a little. It's kind of a side observation, but I thought I would share that.
I love it. I love it. I love the foundation. I love everybody that I get to work with. I am one of those people who I feel most alive when I have a lot to do, which makes my job perfect for me, because I just do all sorts of things all the time. There was a moment recently where I was talking to some of the other some of the board people who have a long history in philanthropy, and to have them say that the stuff that they're seeing happening within the foundation is kind of revolutionary for philanthropy is really exciting. I hope that this foundation can turn into something that not only supports young people but empowers empowers them to continue the cycle. I hope that this is something that leaves a lasting impact, and that leaves that there is a marker in a change in thinking between generations, and that our generation, the people who are young right now, who are putting in all of the work that the foundation strives to support and uphold, can then turn around and take that support that they experienced and pass it down. I hope it's a relay race, not a sprint.
Yeah. I always think the same. Our generation is hopefully this start point, and hopefully it's just going to continue onwards to the next generation, and then I'll feel out of date on everything. But that'll be good.
I sincerely hope there comes a time where I look out at all of the stuff that the foundation is doing, and I go, I have no idea what's going on. I really hope there's a point where I can sit back and I look at it and I go, you young people move too fast for me.
Yes, exactly. That's what I really want as well.
We've talked about the team a little bit, and obviously you mentioned a good for the team. I just want to take the moment to kind of go through, and you can find it on the website if you'd like. One of us global will be in the description below. If you're listening on Spotify, head over to YouTube and find it there. But obviously there's Stacy, the president, Mister Technodad, treasurer, Iris, I hope I've said that right, as the advisor, Megan, advisor, Mitzi, advisor, Rosalind, advisor, and then Pixie, of course, head of social impact. So there's probably, that's what it says on the side, it's the foundation team. So I kind of wanted to name drop, appreciate people there.
Thank you.
I can also name drop everyone else.
I mean, as long as it's not too long, go ahead.
We on our board of advisors, we have the lovely Alice, Anna, Cindy, Ian, Erlus, we've got Javier, we've got Jim, we've got Mir, we've got Nick, and a couple, and then we've on the social youth advisory committee. I'm so sorry. We have Alma, Andy as Calypso, Dylan as Fourline, Lynn, Relo, Shelby, Silver, Thess, and Tristan. And then in the social impact team, my loves, we have Autumn, Calvin, and CJ, and absolutely all of them are brilliant and amazing. And I could not ask for a better foundation crew.
And a massive thank you to you all.
People. Yeah. Yes.
I guess one last thing here then, before we move into the Twitter questions, because there's a few more that we haven't asked, and then wrap up the podcast from there. So obviously, I believe it's 1 p.m. for you guys, and we started recording at 11. So don't want to take too much more of your afternoon. We've kind of mentioned it throughout the podcast, but we haven't fully touched on it. The Festival of Voices. So that happened on Saturday, June 3rd, 2023. There's a lot of really cool people on the teams. One which is really ironic is a Fire Breath Man on team 2, because I recorded with him yesterday, and his podcast is coming out 2 days later, and we also talk about Technoblade. So it was just funny how it linked up with the midweek MC and the Inside MC. But what was the Festival of Voices? Can we expect another one this year? I just want to hear about it just before we move into the Twitter questions here, because we haven't really touched on it.
Oh, Technodad, do you want to do it, or can I do it?
I'll start, and then you finish.
I think Pixie, you're more likely to go on a big
The festival is my baby. The festival is my baby.
Yeah, so we want to do it every year, and we've been talking about how we want to have a different theme each time, and definitely am thrilled and amazed at how much excitement and interest that so many young influencers can bring, and it was absolutely thrilling to do the first one. How many people were my experience again and again was just contacting some great big Minecraft person, getting to know them for the first time, and saying, hey, so I have this thing I'd like to see if you'd be interested in, and they were like, yeah, I'm there. In fact, somebody said to me at one point, I think it was Bad Boy Halo, said, I don't see how anyone could say no to you at this point.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why would you want to miss out on something like this as well? It's such a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a Minecraft tournament. People love Minecraft tournaments, right? So
they do indeed.
The festival's coming back. We've started working on the festival. We started working on the festival in January, so we're cooking. We're stirring the pot. There's stuff happening. We have an amazing development team on the festival. We've got Code Error, we've got Bump Jammy, and we've got Spanner, who are some truly talented developers who are building our game for this year. And the first one, I had a lot to do with the game concept. This one, mostly the devs who have done the game concept and the game design. So I'm very excited. We have a really good idea. We have a really good base that we're working on. It will be very fun. And again, it'll use the community. So the community will be involved. There will be another festival. We're very excited about that. And the festival is also kind of it's our big fundraiser. It's our big flagship event that the foundation does. Yeah. So,
I'll also mention, we talked about merch a bunch earlier, but we have not only the very popular Technoblade merch, but also Mister Technodad merch, as we were saying. And when I set up the Mister Technodad merch store, it's set up in such a way that isn't like the money comes to me and then I donate it to the foundation. The money just goes directly to the foundation. Mm-hmm. I don't see any of that money as I like it. And the regulation on top of what happens with Technoblade merch is more complicated and also bound by the estate laws and his will and so forth and so on. But definitely a portion of that goes to charitable organizations as well.
Mm-hmm. With the Festival of Voices, last year it was on June 3rd, and it was for Technoblade's 24th birthday. Yep. June 1st falls on a Saturday this year. Mm-hmm. You might not have a confirmed date yet. Is there a possibility that we'll be having the Festival of Voices on Technoblade's 25th birthday?
A very strong one.
Yeah, I would love that.
That's amazing. I was looking at a date, I was like, wait, pause. June 1st, Saturday.
You're connecting too many dots. You gotta leave something for us to announce.
Well, no, because you didn't say it. I was listening to you talk, and I was like, okay, I'm listening, but please don't say it falls on June 1st. I want to be the one to observe that. So don't say it. And you did. I'm like, yes, observation time.
Yes. Orbit's out here with his with your bulletin board and red string.
I've just crossed off that topic now. It's perfect. I just have about 50 others, but we don't have time for that. So.
And to brag about the community a little bit, the first Festival of Voices is the premiere edition of it, which even with all of our technical difficulties, shout out to the dev team for being absolute champs during that. That was so scary, and they pulled through like the utmost of professionals that they are. We raised over $100,000 for charitable works, and so I could not be more proud of the community that turns out for the festival, and we're so excited for this year's festival.
Especially now that you're more established as well, as if you've already done it once. The One of Us Global Foundation has been around for longer than a year now. Yeah. It's now that you've established yourself as, not to say you weren't already, but I guess more so foundation wise. It's what's a goal we're looking at? I reckon you can double it. I reckon you can over double it this year.
Do you think double?
I think over double. I want to shoot for the stars and say a lot more, but just what my dad always used to, when I was doing my GCSEs, what my dad always told me is if you really want an A, aim for a C, because then if you get an A, you'll be really happy. But if you aim for an A and you end up getting a C, you won't be too satisfied. So that's why I feel like double is a nice number, but I want more. I want you guys to raise
our goal for this year is $1 billion.
I reckon that's possible. That's possible.
1 billion. And if we don't hit that, we're never doing it again.
1 quadrillion.
$1 sextillion.
Sounds reasonable enough, to be fair. So. But yeah, unless there's anything else that before we were going to bring up and you'd like to talk about, I believe that brings us into the Twitter questions here.
I have one thing that I do want to throw out there in terms of being able to say something to all the young people who are listening. It may not be an original thought, because I think Taylor Swift has already pushed this idea pretty well, but vote.
Yes.
Please vote, because every year the statistics show that the young people aren't voting very much and the really old people are doing a lot of voting. And I don't know that that's the best thing for society. That fact means that out-of-date ideas tend to persist. Mm-hmm. And if we want to move forward, honestly, it's not people my age who are going to be coming up with the new ideas and the better ways to move forward. So if you're a young person, please register to vote. Vote not just in the big issues, but vote your local
Down
measured
ballot
as well.
races matter so much.
Yes.
It's the down ballot, it's the second page, if you're in the US, that are the policies that are going to affect you most directly a lot of the time. So make sure that you're paying attention to those. Make sure you're voting down ballot.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really, it really isn't that much work to go read and figure out what your own how to vote in a way that reflects what your values are. So please do that. And I as an American, that feels particularly important in my country, but the same thing applies everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say that goes to the UK as well, because we have the election at some point this year. They have yet to announce, but I definitely think young people should vote for that. I think it's so important for the future, as we've talked about already on this podcast. The future is
participation in your community, especially your local community, but also your wider national community, is how advocacy work is done. It's how effective change is made. So it does affect you. It is a thing that will touch your life. It is a thing that will touch your friends' lives and those you love's lives. So pay attention and make sure that you're turning out, because it's how, not to quote Hamilton, but I love Lin-Manuel Miranda so much, you can be in the room where it happens, and you can elect people that you trust to do a good job to be in those rooms where it happens. So make sure that you're doing that. Cannot stress that enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't really have too much to add there, because you kind of all said what I was going to say, and I don't want to sound like a broken record just repeating you guys. But I agree.
Please.
With that, then, it brings us to the Twitter questions. So, looking at it now, we've actually asked the majorities throughout the podcast. So when I said we had Twitter questions, I realized that we don't actually have too many. But we have like more kind of simplistic, off-topic, random ones that could be fun to ask. One of them, and you've answered the question earlier, I believe, but so I'm going to alternate the question, but I still want to give them credit for anyways. It's from Aaron. They said, have either of you started saying some of Techno's sayings because of him? If so, which ones? And I think you've already said yes. So the second part is the part that I'm emphasizing. If so, which ones?
I'm a big fan of not even close.
What about yourself?
It was always ironic as well.
Yeah.
I use what is it? You'll have to train if you want to defeat me. Train for another 300 years.
Yes,
I've said that before.
That's a great one.
Sometimes I'm just like wandering around the house and I'm like, "Donde está la biblioteca?" Sometimes.
Yes.
I think it's like a almost a vocal stim at this point.
That's actually funny. That one's good. What about yourself? What would say for AJX? Do you have any?
Obviously Techno never dies. Is the big one. What else? There's one quote and I'm forgetting it now, and it was during the Potato Wars. It was basically all the Sun Tzu quotes.
Yes.
Which are obviously Sun Tzu quotes, but you tribute, and then every now and again Techno used to just like make small edits to the Sun Tzu quotes to make it about potatoes. So me and my siblings always talk about that.
I'll tell you one I say all the time is school didn't teach me how to pay taxes or balance my checkbook, but I can talk to you about color symbolism in The Great Gatsby.
I remember. Yeah, it's true though. Like it's so true. Why do schools not teach us? Actually, no. This is going to be a whole different topic. I'm not asking that question. Otherwise, we'll go into a massive tangent there.
I really like whatever you do. Don't show all your techniques in a YouTube video. You fool. You moron.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I remember I showed that video to my best friend as well because I had to make sure he watched it.
I like the officer. I drop kicked that child in self-defense because I've always since I was young, I've always just said I'll drop kick you. There's even I have an animated upload in my own Discord, which doesn't really thing, and it's literally just called drop kick. I've sent it there. So I've been saying that for years. So when that specific one, I don't say it much, but I do love that quote because it just relates to me in a sense of the word drop kick is just I don't know why specifically drop kick, but it does. So.
It's a good technique.
If you execute it right.
Yeah.
I don't say this one, but one of my favorite quotes of his is, "You want to be a hero, Tommy? then die like one. I always thought that was so, like, I don't know if that was like off the dome or what, but that was really good.
There's so many good ones from the Dream SMP. I do whenever I do D&D, I use Techno's ones from.
I love plagiarizing Technoblade for Dungeons and Dragons. It's my favorite
Exactly.
One person has many iconic quotes. It's so greedy. It's outrageous.
Our next one is, again, a bit of a loose one from Moody's, who asks, left or right Twix?
Left.
Why?
Nice.
Oh, what did you say there, Pixie? Sorry?
I said right.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Star War here. All right, go on, debate. Why?
I feel like right is the mainstream answer, and I'm a rebel. I'm an iconoclast.
Are you right or left-handed?
I'm left-handed.
That'd be why.
There you go.
There we go.
Here's why I say right, and I'm gonna get into this. I'm dyslexic. I don't know my lefts from my rights, and I always so when I was growing up, people were like, just make L's with your hands and see which one looks correct. I don't know. I will spell love backwards. I don't even care. And so that's why I say right. It's because left is the hardest thing in the world because it is a deceptive direction. You never know which way is left. You're always like, oh, go left. Oh, no, your other left. The other left. Like, no, Just throw the whole thing away. Set it on fire. Eat the right one.
I've got dyspraxia and a bit of dyslexia. Well, dyslexia. But I am the opposite. Despite being right-handed and right-footed, I always go with the left because I can make it an L. So it's interesting that you have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Chat, I have no clue which way an L goes. Like, I can, when it's in isolation, like, I can look at something and be like, that's probably not right. But like, if I have to just like guess which way an L goes, my brain is never quick to do it.
I don't like Twix. It makes my mouth really dry. So I sadly don't have a side.
That was you said that in the most perfect way.
Orbis is like none of them.
Neither.
You can take your Twix and leave.
Exactly. You can enjoy your Twix so that doesn't make your mouth dry and you enjoy it. I don't know. And the final one we'll ask for today comes from Bacon Boys. What's your favorite color?
I like a deeply saturated blue.
Okay.
Nice.
I like pink. I like pink. I like pink. I like green.
Fan, mate.
Pink is pretty great.
I like pink is my second favorite and cyan is my first. So there you go.
Hot pink was the color of all my
I have
cars
an
on
order.
GTA 5. You know.
I used to play GTA, and then when I went to LA for VidCon, I was like, oh, it's just like GTA. I've been here before.
There you go. You don't actually have to go LA. You can just buy.
Yeah.
It is very similar, to be fair.
There we go. I mean, there wasn't much going on for that. I'm not going to ask you why it's your favorite color. Instead, I don't think there's a solid explanation for it. But you know,
why?
I like it. You know, it's an alright color.
Here's a color story. So my IRL job is that I have a film studio that people rent out if they're shooting a corporate video or whatever they're doing. And when we were building the place, so if you came here and you wandered around, you would see this just amazing multi-toned blue color theme where there's several different shades of blue that are used as colors on highlight walls in different places, and it's gorgeous and it's clever and it's really nice. And I had nothing to do with it whatsoever. The guy who was arranging the interiors came to me one day and he says, what's a color you like? And I said, blue. And he said, okay. And then downstream from there's this amazing, elaborate, sophisticated blue color scheme in the studio. So when people admiringly say, oh wow, who came up with the color scheme? Who did this great work? I say, I said to make it blue. I deserve like 0% of the credit, but I was the one who said blue. That was blue. That was my part. I said blue.
I think that's a win, to be fair. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you can take all the credit, come to think of it. Because if it wasn't blue, would it have the same outcome?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah. Probably not.
It probably would not have been as classy.
Exactly. So, thank you for the colour story. I guess that sadly brings the end of this week's Midweek MC.
That is sad.
Thank you so much. I know I've said it so many times, and I'm talking every single time I say it on behalf of both AJX and I, and he's probably not repeating it because he's in the broken record thing, but we are very grateful you take time out of your afternoons.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. That was great. I loved it.
Before I do the outro here, I always like to give both of you. You can choose whatever order you like to promote yourselves, to promote anything you'd like. You have all the time to say as many ats as you like. Twitter, YouTube, individual YouTube, the charity, anything. This is the floor. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Pixie,
Technodad, you go for it. Oh, okay.
That's staying in.
Well, the Mister Technodad Discord server is obviously the hippinest, happinest place to be. But if you are interested in keeping up with what I do, I talk a lot about mental health. I talk a lot about some behind-the-scenes stuff. A lot of times, if Technodad wants to put something on the Twitter, it comes out of my account. I'm ProtonPixie just about everywhere. So feel free to come say hi, hang out. Yeah, also, make sure that you follow InsideMC on Spotify and subscribe to them on YouTube. And also follow them on Twitter, because then you can see all sorts of awesome podcast episodes. And then go follow Orbits and AJX, because they are truly the best and most delightful hosts.
Sam, you're good at this. You would have thought.
It's my whole job. I can pull an ad read out of my butt. I do not need a script. I can just go.
By the way, we didn't sign them up for that. I want to be very clear. That was all off their own bag. I didn't know.
I'm just hoping I can pull an ad read out of my butt is not something that ends up inspiring any fan art.
It could be a legendary quote though, as well. To be fair,
it could.
Quotes, that could be one that goes down in history.
You can put some black and white. You can put like a black and white picture of me. I can pull an ad read out of my butt. It looks like a memorial announcement.
That'll be the intro clip. In the intro clips, that'll be the final clip of the intro clips. Will be you saying, "I can pull an ad read out of my butt," and then there'll be the transition, and then it'll go into.
I love it. Well, we already talked about the foundation a bunch, which of course is my big exciting thing. Also, my YouTube channel, Mister Technodad. I make stuff. Some people think it's funny, so check it out and so forth. But when I sit down and I think about if I really want to say something, I really want to promote something, there's really only one message that comes to mind: subscribe to Technoblade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's been the entire topic of the podcast. Well, most of it. So if you haven't already, you definitely should. And for some clarification here, Technodad, you don't have Twitter, do you?
I am not on Twitter.
Good. Okay, because there's an account, and the replies are like, "Are you the real Technodad?" So for confirmation here, Technodad, that is not their Twitter.
I don't do anything on Twitter, do I, Pixie?
No. Anything that Technodad wants to go to Twitter comes out of my Twitter. So
I guess now one of us as well. Now that exists.
I'm one of us. Yeah. But usually the Mister Technodad brand stuff, if it needs to go on Twitter, it goes out on mine, and then I go and send it to all the update accounts. So if it comes from the Technodad updates or the TechnoTwit news account, also that's how you can find legit Technodad information on Twitter. But other than that, don't trust the fakers and the haters.
As I like to say, just imagine how weird it is somebody like my age saying, "Hey, I'm on Instagram." So anyway, I'm on Instagram.
There we go. Well,
Technodad's on Threads.
And Threads. Yeah. Sorry, what'd you say?
Under the Technodad brand, you're on Instagram.
Yes. Mister Technodad.
And thank you, AJX, for being an amazing co-host as per usual. Obviously, an honor to have you here.
You as well, good sir. Thank you, Gig.
And we've made history with the 4-person podcast, and it actually went really well. I'm not gonna have to do that much editing, which is quite nice. Look at that, eh? So
no, it's been wonderful. Yes,
I thought it really flowed, and I thought we had a good rapport.
We did.
Yes,
we had a great conversation.
Exactly.
Got along really well, which is nice as well.
We're historic. I would like a statue in our honor.
I mean, I'll do one better. You can have moving animated people on a YouTube podcast. There we go. Look at that.
That's so much better than a statue.
I love it.
This brings the end of Midweek MC. Thank you all for listening. Appreciate you all. And yeah, just check out anything and keep the memory alive. If you're going to do anything today, talk about it. Talk about anything, all right? And not even just to do with this, just anything in general. Don't hold things back. Talk to people, confide in people, obviously the ones you trust and ones you love. And if you're going to take anything from this podcast as much as other things. But thank you all for listening. Stay safe. Don't eat too much bread. Pieces.